in Alberta, where they've got all hell for basements. Yeah, I lost my way, but I hear tell about a heaven in Alberta, where they've got all hell for basements.
Hi, everyone. Frankie here, New West Reset. Hello. Welcome back. I don't know why the theme for Welcome Back Cotter suddenly jumped into my head, but anyway. I don't know where I was going with that, but welcome back. Thanks for shooting in, joining me here for another one. This is, of course, New West Reset Live. And we're at episode 33 here this evening. So welcome. This evening, yes, 6 p.m. local time here in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. On this Friday, September the 29th. And it's been chilly here lately. It's been kind of chilly in the morning, especially. And like frost warnings now. That's not great. Not great. But during the day, then it warms up, warms up to maybe 20 Celsius, which is, like low 70s-ish Fahrenheit. So that's, but it's autumn, right? It's autumn. Leaves are now changing and falling. Wind blowing them away. Oh, man. Every morning I get up and there's less leaves on the trees, more on the ground. Oh, geez. Crunch on my way to work, stepping in the leaves, gee. Yep, and it's not even October yet. What's a guy going to do, right? It's Canada. Anyway, typical Canadian, pissing and moaning about the weather. So thanks again for shooting in and joining me here, New West Reset Live. Yours truly, old Frankie, coming at you for this Friday evening. Kick off to the weekend. Thanks for spending a little bit of it with me here. We're going to be looking at the buried secrets beneath Montreal. Not really secrets. Well, this mysteries maybe is more accurate. I don't know. Clickbait title. Unsubscribed. Anyway. Buried secrets slash mysteries beneath Montreal. This was stuff that I heard about when I was a kid. I remember my dad and my uncles talking about this. And talking about these catacombs underneath Bonsecours in Montreal, in the old port, old Montreal, which is just really across the river, basically, from the little farm that my grandparents used to have back in Montreal, where my dad and my uncles grew up as kids. And apparently there's a big family connection there with the Bonsecours market. It was a big market, right? It was back in the 1800s. It was a big, huge market. There was a butcher in there and like you name it, apothecary, tobacconist. And if you were, let's say, I don't know, like my grandparents, they had some dairy cattle, so they would bring their milk to Bonsecours. What else did they bring? They used to bring some other stuff. I can't remember. Anyways, they used to bring a few items from their little farm over to Bonsecours market, right? There was an indoor market, outdoor market, farmers market, different vendors, all kinds of stuff. It was like what do you call them? Like an arcade, right? We have a main floor, and then you have the beautiful high ceilings, and then there's second levels, which are mezzanines, and you have all these little shops and what have yous, bakery and whatnot. Apparently, in the winter, what they used to do was you would skate on the St. Lawrence River, which is basically a few yards from Bonsecours Market, and we'll have a look at that. But you could ice skate there, and that's how they used to get to the market, taking a shortcut in the winter. Was the horses would pull the sleigh with all the dairy products and whatever else they were bringing to the market, and they would just go right across the frozen parts of the river. So that's kind of a neat thing. I think there's a bunch of old family photos of my great grandfather doing that or something. But anyway, don't want to get ahead of myself here. What's going on in the box? Let me say howdy and how's it going to everybody. By the way, thanks for once again for joining me here Friday night. Vincent, yeah. 33. Yeah, that's right. And I thought about doing something to do with that, but I thought, geez, the guy doesn't want to get his live stream shut down, shut it down like right out of the gates, right? So, like, come on, can I just please? Guys, just trying to do a thing here. Please don't shut me down before I even get the ball rolling. So I thought, well, I better. I took chances a while back when I discussed the Calgary fires and the link with the then mayor, then guy who was in charge of the volunteer fire department, guy named George Murdoch here in Calgary, in Calgary's Great Fire, 1886, 87, 1886. Anyways, that guy used to live in Chicago. He was there during the Great Chicago Fire a few years earlier. And he was one of our favorite punching bags here on the channel, the Square and Compass Brotherhood, those clowns. Guy's got a tiptoe around the, you know how it is. Anyway, yeah, so I decided I would just 86 the whole idea. But I did that live stream, and that was very interesting. I can't remember what number live stream it was. It was, I think, a year ago or more. Anyway. So yeah, Vincent, my buddy Vincent in the house, Old World, Michigan. Our old friend, good to see you as well. Hidden at plain sight. It's going to be a long night. Cheers from the Netherlands. Yeah, this guy, you know what? Yeah, by the way, go over there and subscribe to a guy's channel over there at Hidden at Plain Sight over in the Netherlands. He doesn't just focus on Netherlands. He does a lot of other parts of the world. Great photos. Usually nice classical piano music in the background. Beautiful old world buildings and brick roads, cobblestone roads. Lovely. Turtle! Hello, Turtle. Oh, speaking of old friends, Kim Ray. Hello. Good to see Kim Ray. Welcome. So yeah, shout out if you're just shooting in, joining me here. Thank you once again, and let me know in the box where you're coming in from. It's always interesting. Get people coming in from all over the place in here, which is really cool. Love to have you. Thanks for kicking off your weekend here. So yeah, this Bonsecours market, we'll have a look at it. Was and is it's still there. A fantastic, amazing, beautiful. A guy runs out of adjectives to describe this building. It's wonderful. And of course, we'll do it up Canadian style. We got to put a dome and then well, you'll see. But as a kid, I remember my dad and my uncles talking about what they heard when they were kids, that under this Bonsecours, these catacombs, And these were like, Boy Scout ghost stories around the campfire and urban legend type things from when my dad and my uncles were kids in the 1950s, early 60s, maybe. And I just remember kind of shrugging it off. But of course, in recent times here, with kind of looking into how history has been altered and kind of trying to add my little pieces to the puzzle as much as I can with the research and the things that I do here on the channel, I started remembering, right? Because we hear about things like tunnels and finding old underground Roman baths or what have you that they forgot were there. And of course, you have castles or cathedrals built on top of older buildings that we're told were also used to be castles or cathedrals, right? Turkish baths, Roman baths, all these things, right? Roman baths in England for some reason, you know. But then they also tell us they probably weren't there long enough, really, to get a strong foothold, the Roman Empire, right? Anyway, so you kind of hear about, oh, okay, there's stuff underground in Montreal. Well, yeah, no whoop, no big whoop, right? Like, yeah, change the record. Tell me something I don't know, right? First of all, that's where a guy was born, was in Montreal. Love going to the old port or the old part of the city. Even when I go back to visit, I drag my poor cousins along to the old port, and they're like, this is such tourist stuff, man. And I'm like, well, I know, but I dig it. It's just beautiful. And again, this is all pre me sort of waking up to a lot of the false narratives, right? Or the alterations, or whatever you want to call them. And of course, then there's the subway or the metro underneath downtown Montreal that takes a certain pathway underneath certain parts of the downtown core to avoid what they knew were, what we're told are foundations. Or again, a lot of times they don't hide the fact that, oh, this building's built on top of an older building, blah, blah, blah. So we know that there's tunnel systems and there's buildings built on top of older buildings and structures. Shmish Masons. I haven't heard that one. Um, so even as a kid, I knew about tunnels, especially under the old port, the old part of the city. But there was an old tunnel system for part of the railroad that went under a couple of streets, just so that the railroad. It was cheaper to build these tunnels supposedly than go around the long way and avoid, the busy sort of uh, that sort of busier end of downtown in Montreal. So they just, from what they say, tunneled under it rather than going all the way around it. And again, I was familiar with Bonsecours for sure, you know, but these catacombs underneath Bonsecours, I'm like, what is the old man talking about? Is he pulling my leg? I was trying to think, was this a Halloween thing that he was telling me about, And I'm like, nah, it's not really spooky or anything. Like catacombs are catacombs. It is what it is, right? So I kind of had to dig around a little bit. Of course, a guy gets on the people popper and goes onto the goggle machine and starts dancing around in the interwebs trying to find stuff. And nothing about anything underneath Bonsecours Market at all, other than um, some renovations and so on and so forth, but not finding anything weird down there. Stuff that they didn't know was there. Whoops, we suddenly stumbled upon these underground structures because we accidentally broke through renovating and found these catacombs. No, nothing like that. So I thought, what the hell is my dad talking about? Underneath Bonsecours Market, the catacombs. And I couldn't shake it. A guy couldn't get out of his head. So finally I phoned the old man. it was last week or the week before, and I said, Pops, what are you talking about here with these catacombs underneath Bonsecours Market? And he says to me right away, what the hell are you talking about? And I said, you and Uncle Ron and Uncle Norm talking about these catacombs under Bonsecours Market. He's like, no, not under Bonsecours Market, under the Bonsecours, the old church. Ding, ding. Then a light bulb went off, and I thought, okay, thanks, Pops. Love you. Goodbye, click. And then back to the keyboard and to the interwebs and looking around. And there it was. So I don't know if it was, user error on my part with the brain. And they said Bonsecours and meant the chapel. And I thought they meant Bonsecours Market. And I thought, well, no wonder a guy wasn't finding anything over there, like, geez, eh? Wild goose chase and whatnot. Well, yeah, of course, underground anything is very fascinating because then they tell you like, oh, that's like 300 years old or whatever, depending where in the world, right? So it's like, okay, well, then who built it and why? We don't know because it's 300 years old or 200 years old. Or they give you it's Civil War if it's in the U.S. There's Civil War tunnels. Or sometimes they give you the Prohibition tunnels, right? Really? Under the entire city? 30 feet down? Yeah. Miles and miles and miles of it, all interconnecting under all these different buildings? Really? Okay, sure. Oh, there he is. World Hamster Wheel Cranes. Yeah, exactly. Prohibition. See? You see, exactly. Like, give me a break, right? Then they try to link that with some of the tunnels under some of the Canadian cities here, and they say, well, because of Prohibition. Yeah, but we didn't have our Prohibition up here at the same time as the U.S. And it wasn't like a federally enforced nationwide thing. It was province by province could choose to opt in or opt out, basically. I mean, there was it was a little more complicated than that, but basically. So it's like, well, then they try to backpedal it and they say, well, yeah, because then they were smuggling Canadian whiskey across the border. So they had to use tunnels. It's like, look, my great grandfather used to work for the railroad. If you're going to sneak Canadian whiskey into the United States, that's all you got to do is slip those railroad boys a couple of bucks to look the other way. And yeah, fill up a boxcar or half fill up a boxcar or whatever. It's the Great Depression, right? Everybody's looking to make a buck. You got to do what you got to do to survive. Everybody's on hard times and whatnot, right? So, not to say that everybody would fall to a life of crime during the so-called Depression and the Prohibition era, but even a little kid will steal a loaf of bread if they're hungry enough. See what a guy's saying? Well, then that's the thing too, is how long did it take to make some of these tunnels and how long did Prohibition last in some areas, right? I know there's still some counties in the United States that might even still be dry counties to this day in the South. I know there was still a lot of them in the 60s where you had to cross the county line to drink alcohol, which, whatever and all that, but it's very complicated, right? So yeah, it takes, like 5 to 10 years to build all these tunnels, but Prohibition lasted 3 or whatever, right? So then it's like, well, it's this juggling act, right? But I mean, I've heard of all of this, right? But I'd never heard of these catacombs. So once I straightened out what the old man was talking about, I was like, now I understand, you see. Now I understand what you meant when you said catacombs underneath Bonsecours. because it wasn't Bonsecours Market. You gotta hate it when it's like 15 different places have the same name. It's just that one's Bonsecours Chapel, the other one's Bonsecours Market, the other one's Bonsecours Library or whatever, right? Adding chaos to confusion. But, I was going off memory, and I was just a kid when I heard these stories, so what's a guy going to do? So I'm going to share with you just a couple of photos here, just of a few things that I'm kind of talking about, and then we'll kind of get into these catacombs, because there actually are catacombs, by the way, to make a long story short. There it is. There you are, everybody. Good night. Anyway. So again, there's tunnels, right? Like there's the Mount Royal Tunnel. And this is that railway tunnel that they went under a bunch of streets in downtown Montreal. This was built in the early 1910s to teens-ish. I think it went under, I can't remember if it was 3, 4 streets, 5 streets, something like that. And to make it easier, some parts of the tunnel apparently were just a one-track tunnel. So they would have switches and so on. But yeah, here's a photo here of them. What they say is a photo of them building the Montreal tunnel. And this is for the Canadian, what became the Canadian National Railway when it was nationalized not long after this, I think late 19 teens, early 20s, around 100 years ago. Look at all this nice stuff in the background, by the way. Yeah. Freaking, where's it, Scotland? Nope. Why? Well, because there's a castle on that grassy mountain back there. No, this is Canada, hey, bud? Canada doesn't have castles. Okay, so what you calling that there, pal? Hey, there? Hey? Anyway, so, I mean, a lot of us Montrealers, we're familiar with this whole project. All right, what else we got here? This is, you can see here, this is when it's complete. Then they put, sort of some viaducts over here. And then you can see in the background, the road kind of then descends downwardly in a little bit of a slope and then joins the rest of the sort of the ground level. So they sort of tunneled under some streets and then to match some of the heights so that the train could flow through above ground, they put in some viaducts in as well. Either that or they just found these old tunnels and repurposed them. I don't know. That wouldn't surprise me because there's all kinds of old, what they call old brick lined sewer systems under Montreal. It's like the same thing that you hear about under old New York or under old London or under Paris. Montreal is a damn old city, not even by Canadian standards, just in general. It's one of the oldest cities in the quote unquote New World, Montreal. There's parts of Montreal that are creeping up on 500 years old. Now, that might not be old if you're in Europe, but over here across the pond there, bud, over here in the land of maple syrup and beer and back baking. Anyway, so here's the Bonsecours Market. So this is what a guy's talking about. This thing is freaking glorious, as you can see. You basically have the street here, the railroad, as you can see here, and there's sort of a dock area, and with a couple of wharfs and ports and so on. So basically the ships, the tall ships, and later the steam tramps and stuff could pull in here, and they could just offload directly into the rail. Of course, before the rail came in, this could just kind of sloped up to this grubby street. But what a glorious, glorious building. Of course, you got to have, to bring your If you're a sheep farmer and you want to bring your wool to trade at the market, if you're, I don't know, a local carpet weaver or pottery guy, what are the people that do pottery called? Potters? I don't know. I'm sorry. But you get what I'm driving at. You got to have, your columns and your pediments, got to have big arches, arched entranceways, and, balconies. And of course, because, we got to do it up Canadian style, you want to build a dome with a cupola with another dome because you want to do domes on domes because we have an inferiority complex because we're so polite up here, eh, bud? So we're trying to make up for it with doing the double dome thing. But here is where we're talking about Bonsecours Chapel, and you can see the beautiful spire shooting up right there in the background. And as you can see, this photo's fairly old. They're still using horse and cart down here, but I do see cars, I think, up here. Or no, maybe those are horse and wagon too. It's hard to tell. I thought they were cars. Couldn't really get a date on this photo, unfortunately. So they might be horses and buggies, but anyway. But you can just see how crappy this looks. But this building just sticks out like a sore thumb, and it's freaking huge. And it's not the only glorious old world building. So yeah, this is where my great-grandparents and grandparents would bring milk to from the farm, because you need all of this. Completely unnecessary. I'm glad it's there, and I'm glad it's still there, because it is beautiful. This is a pretty old shot here. Right around the turn of the last century, Victorian era, Montreal. You just see how beautiful. And then again, they had an open market, farmers market as well. You can see a little bit of it here. So there was all the vendors and everything inside, and restaurants, and a tea room, right? It's Canada, but we got to have a tea room in here, right? And a cafe and all of that. But what a glorious structure. So this is what I thought my dad and my uncles were talking about when they said there's catacombs under the Bonsecours. I thought they meant the Bonsecours market, le marché Bonsecours. Marché is march, meaning like market. Again, like an arcade, like an old-timey mall, basically. In the background, you see Notre Dame de Bonsecours. Right here and here. It's all one big church. Anyway, there it is today. Of course, you still got to have the horse and buggies, right? You got to have the handsome cabs. Hey, hippie. Welcome, welcome. Good to see you. Thanks for shooting in. Like, just absolutely glorious, glorious structure. Of course, I'm sure you noticed the street slopes like a some bitch, some bitch. And then not only, pillars and pediments, but actual columns as well. Or sorry, not only columns and pediments, but actual pillars. And your arches, and of course different levels and different entrances at different levels because it's so slopey. And again, you can just see how massive it is. And you can see they've done some terraforming. They've, the street is still there, but now they've added this park that used to be the rail and some of the docks and the loading area. Now this is the Bonsecours Chapel. So this is what my dad and my uncles were talking about. Now this is just down the street from Bonsecours Market. Because later on, asking my dad, well, how did you hear about this? He said, well, from his parents and his uncles and stuff too, and his older cousins trying to give him the willies because as a kid, my dad would have to help out around the farm, and sometimes we'd go on the deliveries to Bonsecours with my grandfather. So, his older cousins or older brothers or whatever wanted to freak him out by telling him about the catacombs. Here's a look at, because basically it has two grand sort of spires, because there was some repair work done. I think, of course, there was a big fire. But you can see here's this one entrance here. I'm calling it the front, I guess, but it's not really. The other side, I think, is the front because it's on the main street. But you can see here, beautiful, massive tower, very impressive. And then this is above the entrance on the other side. And super elaborate here with all the intricate work and symbology worked into everything. I couldn't begin to tell you what any of this stuff represents. I guess you could say we've got some angelic figures here, but is this one holding? I don't know what this one's holding. Looks like something like a sickle or semicircular. Maybe it's supposed to be a harp or something, or I don't know what. I don't know. But fancy schmancy. I tell you what, that's pretty amazing stuff. Gives you an idea of the interior back then, and then I have some current photos too. Yeah, I mean, all of old Montreal, and we've touched on old Montreal on the channel here before, and I'm certainly not by a long shot the first channel in our sort of line of research that's looked at old Montreal most especially. It's befuddling and baffling. Headley Man BC, welcome. How's she going, eh? Give a like. Yes, please. Thank you. Yes. Yeah, if you haven't already, consider giving the old thumbs up to the stream, give a guy a like, it just helps to push me out into the algorithm. I'm just a little fella out here. And if you're on the fence about subscribing or not, well, I don't want to push you on one side or the other, but yeah, if you want to subscribe, that'd be awesome. I'd love to have you. Seen a few new faces around in the recent times, in the last week or two-ish. So yeah, welcome aboard. Look at this. This is ridiculous. I mean, yeah, it's a church, so glory of God and all that, they'll say. But technically, it's not a church. They're just calling it a chapel. So I'm not familiar with the whole religious building structure, but I thought it was sort of chapel, church, cathedral. You know what I'm saying? Like in terms of good, better, bestest. But I don't know. Hey, Liz. Good to see you, old Tara Liz. It does. It does kind of look like a cuckoo clock too, right? All that fancy embellishments. So here she is today. You can see once again that slope of that same street. There's a street here that they're working on. This is the street that also runs in front of that Bonsecours market as well. And again, this is the Notre Dame de Bonsecours Chapel in the Old Port, or what's known as Old Montreal. So this is sort of the back entrance, I guess, but again, super fancy, as you can see. And then this is that grand front entrance. Glorious, glorious structure. There's a modern day shot of the interior of this thing. I mean, I can't even begin to tell you. With all this inlay work and stained glass, and you want to have all of whatever that's supposed to represent, hanging down off of all of these frescoes or paintings, or I don't know, way up here, like massive. and then you've down in here, just every surface. I mean, it's not the most ornate a guy's ever seen, but man, oh man, like these little rosettes and everything. Like you're supposed to be bowing your head before the mighty, almighty God here and come being humble before God, before the grand creator. Whatever term, I don't know. I don't even know, but you know what I'm saying? So technically speaking, you're not going to be looking up going, wow, chewing on your bubble gum. Hey, Pierre, you see the detail on the ceiling up there, eh? Oh, for sure, bud. That's amazing there, eh? Now, apparently, there's some tunnels under Montreal that are not what they say are created as part of old sewage systems, water transferring systems, moving water around or whatever, um, underneath buildings for to have deliveries brought in directly to the basement. Not part of any structures, just these caves that they find under Montreal. And they say that these are naturally occurring caves. Now, some of these have been just recently discovered in the last few years, if memory serves. I think I have an article that we'll share in a bit. But it's from, the natural fissures in the stone and rock, because, the islands on the St. Lawrence, of which Montreal is one big island, really. But there's many islands in the St. Lawrence River because it's a massive, wide river. It's basically a seaway. It's like, it's super wide, man, right? It's huge. So, but natural fissures in the rock, and then water gets in there and it freezes and thaws, freezes and thaws. And you get, you get what we're looking at. So I don't know about you, but this is very interesting looking texture to it for natural formations as the water makes its way through the rock. This is not the entrances to the catacombs, by the way. The catacombs are found under that church, and these are not under the church. These are just under parts of downtown Montreal that they say over thousands and thousands of years after the end of the last ice age. As part of this was the big drainage basin in North America as the ice sheets receded, and parts of, as it melted, it was runoff and, it eventually carved through this rock. Is what they're saying. They're saying this is not man-made tunnel systems of any kind. This is natural erosion. Now, some of this, okay, I can see, layers of different sedimentary rock, maybe, or what have you, and cracks that kind of go off in different angles, maybe, but when I see something going straight down, like that thing is just shooting right down, albeit on an odd angle, but this almost looks like something's just tipped over and boom, hit this thing. And it used to be at one time one giant, tall, narrow, I don't know, corridor or tunnel, whatever term you want to use. I mean, it's old as F because it's got moss and lichen and mushrooms and oogly booglies growing all over it, I'm sure. And they'll say this is, minerals leaching through the rock or quartz crystals or maybe, the stalagmites, stalactites and all that. Sure, okay, whatever. But this looks awfully, I don't want to say straight and it could be a trick of the lighting, this guy's flashlight or whatever. I mean, it's looks like it might be leaning a bit in this direction, back at the top a bit, but it looks fairly straight anyway. It doesn't look all craggly like this, going off in all different directions. And this over here, a little bit more random looking, right? Even still, right in behind him, pretty. I mean, this could be courses of stone. I'm not saying it is. I'm suggesting that to me it looks like it is. I don't know. You let me know what you think. Is that the last one already? Yeah, I guess it is. Yeah, let's see. Yeah, I mean, the Montreal is a city now. The city boundaries or the city limits have expanded beyond the island. You know, like I say, I grew up in Montreal as a kid. I was born in Montreal and lived there till I was 10. But technically, it wasn't Montreal. It was on the South Shore. It was on the South Shore of the St. Lawrence, in a different little town actually. But yeah, the St. Lawrence is a big wide. I mean, there's ocean vessels travel down the St. Lawrence to get into the Great Lakes, right? You know what? A guy's going to quit blithering and blathering about the dang thing and just show you where we're talking about here on the goggle maps, right? So you got Quebec here, right? And above New York and Maine, get out of there. Above New York and Maine and Vermont and all them. Got Montreal right here. As we scroll down, you can see that Montreal is basically a big island. And there's other islands of different sizes all here. And there's locks all along, the canals and stuff. So the ocean liners can make their way down, all down into here, and eventually down into the Great Lakes. So yeah, the St. Lawrence River, they call it, is actually really, really huge, and there's all kinds of huge islands. You can see this whole area is just, there's cities everywhere along here. Cities, big towns. Our nation's capital, Ottawa and Ontario, is right there too. Everything's around, most of everything that's big Canadian cities is around the Great Lakes and around the St. Lawrence, with the exception, obviously, of the West Coast, right? Once you get into Vancouver and over here. So yeah, Montreal's just one big, huge island in the middle of the St. Lawrence River. And it's been added onto, right, as... Sorry, I got lost my own self. It's been added onto as they want to increase the land, and they've built islands. There's actually, well, sort of. They've connected islands. They connected smaller islands all together to make one bigger island for Expo, the World Exposition in 1967. And that was actually some of the other tunnel systems. Was in the late 50s, early 60s, they started digging the tunnels for the underground Montreal metro system. And with a lot of the earth that they moved from underneath, they used that to connect some of the smaller islands in the St. Lawrence to make one larger island. And that's where the expo site was. So I thought what we do is we kind of have a look a little bit just at the sort of the official story with the Bonsecours market itself, because it's really, again, it's just an amazing structure. There it is again. I mean, it's just a beautiful, beautiful old world building, again, with the big pillars and columns and pediment, and it's just And downtown in the old Montreal, I mean, there's buildings like this all over the place. Basically, you can't really swing a dead cat without hitting something glorious like this. This is just on quite a large scale. I mean, it's a whole city block from end to end. But it's Bonsecours Market is a former public market in Montreal, located in Old Montreal. It's kind of divvied up now. There's shops and all kinds of different things going on in there now, but and I think a museum or something, and an art center, performing arts center or something. But the site was originally developed under the French regime, the Le Moyen de Longueuil family, and there's a part of Montreal called Longueuil, had a residence there toward the end of the 17th century. It was sold to Etienne Roquebert de la Morandière in 1737. It was given as a wedding gift to the knight Claude Michel Bergon de la Cour and his son-in-law. So it was given to a knight in Canada, you say? Sure. When he died in 1748, his wife, Elisabeth Bergon, rented the house to François Bigot, the last intendant of New France, who lived there from 1749 till his return to France in 1760. It was then one of the most popular private houses in Montreal. So there was a private house on the site originally. Sounds like, anyways. Okay. Oh, okay. Well, look at this. Sir John Johnson. Really? That's the guy's name, John Johnson? John Johnson, eh? All righty. Internet person. Howdy, howdy. Welcome. Good to see you. Thanks for shooting in. We're looking at Sir John Johnson here. Really? Come on, man. Ardent loyalist and general superintendent and inspector general of the Indians of the Six Nations and those of the province of Quebec, purchased the residence in 1796 and sold it to John Molson. There you go. In 1815, this brewer and pioneer of steam navigation on the St. Lawrence, who coveted access to the river, even built a wharf there. Molson expanded and furnished the Mansion House Hotel. So now it's a Mansion House Hotel. The place soon became the meeting place of the Beaver Club and received a deposit of 7,000 volumes by a group of civic-minded gentlemen. Following a fire, Molson built the new Mansion House, later called the British American Hotel, which also burned in 1833. Oh, so many fires. Are you surprised? I'm shocked. Shocked, I say, that there was a fire. Not one. My bad. Two fires. I'm shocked. The guy's baffled and befuddled over here. And if you're not familiar with the Canadian backstory on our own versions of robber barons, John Molson is right up the top of the list. Guy's not going to lie, it makes pretty good beer, though, there, eh, Bod? Molson Canadian there, eh? John Molson Jr. sold the land to the Corporation of the City of Montreal. There you go. Which was used to establish the new market known as Bonsecours, whose construction began in 1844, according to plans by William Footner, intended to replace the Sainte Anne Market, then converted into a parliament. Really? They converted a public market into a parliament? The new public market was inaugurated January 1847. Took them 3 years to build that beauty. 3 years. On an island. Interior work under the direction of architect George Brown continued until 1852. Oh, so you get tack on another 5 years for the interiors. So they're admitting, at least, that it takes at least 5 years just to do the interiors of this place. Mind you, it's not as fancy as the interiors of that chapel we looked at, but just because of the sheer size of the place. So, yeah, there you go. Today, the market's headquarters of Quebec Crafts Council and the Montreal Design Institute houses numerous exhibition halls, restaurants, shops. Been there many times, actually. Many times, at least 4 or 5 times. It's a lovely place. It's a beautiful building. And I'm glad it's still standing. But I don't believe a damn word of this. Hardly any of it. When rioters burned down the Parliament at St. Anne Market, which then housed the Parliament of United Canada, the deputy sat at the Bonsecours market for a couple of weeks there before being transferred back to a building on Place Dalhousie. Sitting there amongst the fishmongers and the fur peddlers, guys like this, their toques and their wooden buckets, and these guys are making laws there in the Bonsecours market. Oh boy, gotta love the you gotta love the fires, the double fires. Isabella Live 2.0, welcome. Thanks for shooting in, and once again, thanks to all of you for shooting in and joining me here. Frankie, yours truly, New West Reset, and this, of course, is New West Reset Live, episode number 33. Where are we at here? Creeping up on 7 p.m. local time here on this Friday, September 29th. Starting to cool down. When I started the stream, I think it was like 15 degrees in the Celsiatory area. It's like 60-ish Fahrenheit. Now it's down to like 8, which is the mid-40s Fahrenheit. It's, it's cooling down. Starting to get dark now too, eh? She's getting dark. She's getting dark out there, eh? It's so early now, right? Not even 7, and it's the sun is setting. I mentioned earlier in the stream, we have frost warnings now in the morning. The guy's got to wear a jacket walking to work, and it takes me like 10 minutes to walk to work. Yeah, is what it is, I guess. So let's have a look at this chapel. Let's have a look at this gorgeous chapel, because I want to share the, we've got to get the Wikipedia in there so we can get the what they're telling us. They're giving us the rundown on all this stuff here. I have to translate this, by the way, because as soon as I type in Bonsecours Chapel, boom, it brings me the French version, which is fine, but you can see right away here, right, that there's these different houses and so on and so on, because there was fires here too. Not different houses, but different versions, different spires and so on. There's some renovations, some repairs, some fires. Yes, yeah, good help. Basically, you're absolutely right, internet person. Bonsecours, what in English? Good help? Yeah. Bonsecours secours means help or aid. It's basically based on all of this here. That's sort of it basically means to be charitable. If you're giving somebody bon secours, like good rescuing or being charitable or being helpful. This is a beautiful building, by the way. It's not the biggest, but it's beautiful. So the Notre Dame de Bonsecours Chapel is a pilgrimage church in Montreal founded by Marguerite Bourgeois. Bourgeois. Man, that's a mouthful even for me. In 1655, y'all. It's located on Rue St. Paul Street, at the intersection of Rue Bonsecours Street in Old Montreal. The stone construction of 1773 makes it the oldest church on the island of Montreal, after that of La Visitation du Saint-Rochelle, which dates to 1749. Sorry, Récollet. Man, oh man. I mean, I speak and read fairly good Francais, but man, oh man, tongue twister even for this guy. Anyway, the Notre Dame de Bonsecours Chapel was started in 1665 at the instigation of her. Yeah, okay, so that's quite a ways back, but really it wasn't built until the first one in wood and then rebuilt in stone 1678. So the first one in 1655, then they built it again in 1678 on the same spot out of stone. And of course, that was destroyed by fire in 1754, rebuilt in 1771. Forgive the siren in the background. Geez, you think a guy lived in Toronto or Chicago or something? Well, dang sirens every time a guy tries to do a live stream. Anyways, its current appearance dates back to the end of the 19th century. Well, that's vague. In particular, due to the work undertaken between 1885 and 1892 with the addition of a neoclassical, there we go, type of decoration on the north facade. Excuse me. Fire trucks and ambulance going by. With the additional neoclassical type decoration on the north facade and a campanile with statuary on the south side. Campanile is a tower which houses bells. Okay. Neoclassical. Sure. You know, these crazy Frenchies on these islands, they just wanted to build them in the classic Greco-Roman tradition, I guess. Man, there's something major going down. I wonder if there's a fire. Ambulance, fire trucks. Wow. Anyway, sorry about that. So connected to the chapel, the Marguerite Bourgeois Museum, a Montreal History and Archaeology Museum, inaugurated in 1998. Highlights, among other things, the artifacts found on the site. Here we go. These come from millennia-old Amerindian camps. Just say American Indian or North American Indian. Just say indigenous. Say, North American indigenous people. Amerindian? Have you ever heard? I've never even heard of that. And I live up in Canada there, bud, where we try to be so freaking politically correct that they put it in the bloody law books now. Yeah. God forbid you misgender somebody in here. You'll go into Hooskow. Amerindian. Just say indigenous First Nations, man. You know what you mean. Trying to make up all this malarkey. Anyway, I think when they're trying to be so tippy-toey respectful that they end up being insulting. Is my take on it. But anyways, the foundations of the first chapel and the imprints of the stakes of the wooden palisade which surrounded the city before it had stone fortifications. Huh. The remains of Saint Marie Bourgeoise were transported to the chapel in 2005 from the mother house of the congregation of which she was also founder, the Congregation of Notre Dame. Those of the recluse Jean Lebert were also transported to the chapel. And then when you click on her name, it says she was a Canadian recluse. Yeah, thanks. They just said so here. I'm hovering over the name to get some more information. And you're giving me recluse here. Wikipedia, man. Yeah, maybe they are. Maybe they are coming to take me away. No, that was fire and ambulance. In fact, give me a second, guys. I'm going to poke his head out the window. See what's going on. Nope. Don't see any smoke or fires. Don't smell any smoke. Fire. All right. We're good. We're golden. It's good. So it was classified as a heritage building in 2014. Look at this thing, man. She's a beauty. Oh, and the ministry has also classified 3 objects associated with the chapel as being heritage thingamaboppers too. The statuette of the Virgin and Child, the statue of Notre Dame de Bonsecours, and the true portrait of Marguerite Bourgeois, as well as the archaeological site of the chapel itself. Very interesting. Lovely, simply lovely in this place. Ah, yes, there you go. Might want to kind of maybe do a bit of work on her, touch her up a bit. Yeah, you can see very slopey. So there's been different additions. So I guess this was the original structure, and then they've added to, and so on. Okay, I guess according to that story. There's a street view of it. Again with that statue there. Of course, you want to you want to notice in old Montreal, a lot of the photos, by the way, it's all like brick and cobblestone streets and stuff. Oh yeah, light it up at night. Why not? Wow, man. Yeah, it's a sight to behold. Just a little chapel in the oldest part of one of the oldest cities in North America. What's going on here? Wow, that is graphic. It's just to hold the painting of somebody holding the dead corpse of old Jesus himself. Why is there a? I guess because it's a port city chapel. It's odd. Yeah, very nice. Very nice. It's a lovely place. Statuette is a copy of one in France. So whose heritage? Yeah, well, I mean, there's obviously a very strong French presence in Quebec, and according to the narrative, there always has been, right from the get-go, right from the quote-unquote discovery of Quebec. You know, when the explorers bumped their ships into Quebec, oh, look what we found. So, you know, probably again something to do with, I mean, the Catholic Church, right? Let's face it, the Catholics, not the average, not your average Catholic person walking down the street minding their own P's and Q's. Just the the church itself as an institution, as a corporation, really. So there are these dudes that are these sort of knights and stuff that are underneath this chapel, and that's the catacombs that my dad and my uncle was talking about. At least that's what they say they were. So again, I'm on the Wikipedia, and this is the Religious Hospitaliers of Saint Joseph. The hospitaliers. Again, that's from at least from what we're told ties into the the Templars, and of course the our favorite punching bags, the Freemasons. They claim a lineage back to the Templars as well, supposedly. I just find it odd that there's people associated with there's knights associated with quote unquote the Templars, the Hospitaliers, the Chevaliers, all of that, in France, but also in New France, right, in Quebec. So the Religious Hospitaliers of St. Joseph's are a Canadian religious congregation founded in France. Oh, there you go, in 1636 by Jérôme Le Royer de la Dauversière and Marie de la Fère. She was a French nun, and this guy was a venerable memory of the founder of the congregation. Okay, so he's just some highfalutin guy. They were collaborators of Jeanne Mance. Who's Jeanne Mance? And are recognized for their pioneering work at the, there we go, Hôtel Dieu de Montreal, the God Hotel. Hôtel Dieu de Sorel, another nice old world structure. Hôtel Dieu d'Athabasca, another Hotel of God. This is in Victoriaville. The one is in Sorel, and the one in Montreal. They had a profound impact, no kidding, on the history of health in Canada and founded hospitals across North America. They notably left behind the Hospitalier Museum at their Hôtel Dieu de Montreal. The work of the Hospitaliers extended far beyond the borders of Quebec. The majority of French-speaking hospitals in New Brunswick were founded by them, notably the Tracadie Hospital and the Bathurst Sanatorium. Oh, of course, a sanatorium. So these guys founded all of these religious hospitals and care centers, supposedly, in old New France. In other words, in old Montreal, old, sort of St. Lawrence region of southern Quebec. I mean, these places, look at this. Extraordinary. So, built by nuns in collaboration with architects and highfalutin members of the church. It's just incredible. These structures that they could build in the 1600s, again, on an island. Absolutely extraordinary. How's everybody doing in the chat, by the way? I think what I'm going to do here is coming up on, an hour? So the guy's going to do take a little bit of a break. I'll give you a sneak peek at next week's midweek on Wednesday, or Wednesday midweek. Another vintage footage video. Then we'll come back and we'll have a look at a couple of other funny little things that have to do. I think I've got some articles to share real quick. And of course, as per usual, I'll post all the links to all of these articles and stuff and the Wikipedia sources and stuff in the description below. So if you want to kind of look into it a little further, it sparked your interest and you're like, what's going on with these like Templar guys buried in Montreal under an old church? What the hell's going on around here? So yeah, and the video is just a quick one. I think it's like a couple minutes. So yeah, we'll do that. I'll share your midweek right now, and then we'll come back. What are we going to share this time here? We're going to share the I think I got what's coming up on Wednesday. Well, yeah, because it's cooling down and we got the hockey preseason started up here in Canada there, eh, bud? Well, we love the hockey there, eh? So I've got an old video, 1933, of the Toronto Maple Leafs. Not Maple Leaves, Maple Leafs. The Toronto Maple Leafs playing the New York Rangers in 1933. And I believe this is in Madison Square Garden. It might be in the Garden. Sorry, that's Boston accent, not in the Boston Garden. In the old Madison Square Garden in the 30s, it might be. If not, then I guess it would be in the Maple Leaf Center, the old Maple Leaf Arena, maybe in Toronto. I don't know. I'm pretty sure it's Madison Square. Anyway, 1933 hockey, because we love the hockey up here, eh, bud? So yeah, a few minutes, and I'll be right back. All right, so stick around. Cheers. All right, we are back. Welcome, welcome. So where are we at here? Just about quarter after the hour, 7 p.m. here, Mountain Time here in Calgary. Thanks for shooting in and joining me. Frankie here, New West Reset. This New West Reset live? Yeah, live. New West Reset live, episode 33, the dreaded 33. Kind of looking at some of the buried mysterious secrets beneath old Montreal here on the show. Just stuff I remember as a kid hearing my dad, my uncles talk about, the catacombs under this certain part of old Montreal. And when I went to look into it recently, I wasn't finding much because there's a couple of buildings under named Bonsecours under in old Montreal. And well, I just wasn't looking right building. So if you're just joining me, thank you for doing so. Appreciate it. Thanks for kicking off your weekend with yours truly. It's always nice. It's nice, eh? Thanks a lot there, bud. Appreciate it, eh? It might even be Saturday for you already. And if so, well, then it's like you're time traveling or something. Anyway, let's see who's in the box. Got Hippie Shake here. Welcome. Hello, hello. Thanks for joining and helping keep an eye on things. Thanks for shooting a bunch of links in. Appreciate that. Yeah, I'm on the just putting a link in there. I'm just scrolling up to see where it was. It was the MeWe link, but there it is. Yeah, I'm on the MeWe, BitChute, the Rumble. Links down in the description for all that. Or if you have a suggestion too of something you want me to look into for a live stream, because I do these every Friday. Pretty much. A guy pretty consistent with the Fridays there. Once in a while, a work scheduling conflict, so I might do her on a Thursday, but it's pretty few and far between. But yeah, if you want to shoot me an email even and say, hey, Frankie, why don't you look into this, that, or the other thing? I try to keep it Canadian, but not exclusively, man. Like, it is what it is, right? Good, grateful goodness. Welcome. Thanks for shooting in. Thank you very much. Nice to see you. Oh, see, you had a Grateful Dead. Bob Weir. In Philly. Baltimore. Very nice. Yeah, I like a lot of the Dead stuff. I wouldn't call myself a Deadhead. I'm more of a blues cat myself, but the Dead were played a lot of great blues. They know how to play the blues. Hippie say never saw an ice hockey match. See right there. Bless you. Bless you, Hippie, because right there, by calling it ice hockey, that was kind of my first tip off. Call it. I don't mean to tease you, but it's us Canadians, eh? We don't call her ice hockey there, bud. We just call her hockey. Oh, that's cute. God bless you. Vincent's here, as well as internet person. Isabella Live 2.0. Oh, man. You folks crack me up. Maxim is here. Hello, welcome. Somebody earlier said that they're from New Brunswick? Where did I see that now? Lost track. Kim Ray's here. Oh, from Alaska. 49 Fahrenheit. Yeah, that's like 7 or 8 degrees Celsius. That's right around where I'm at. Yeah, that's right. You have soccer and rugby. Football. A game of footy. Sorry, I'm just getting lost in the chat here because I saw that somebody was from New Brunswick. Shout out to New Brunswick. There we go. It was Grateful Goddess. Grateful Goddess. I may have said Grateful Goodness earlier. If I did, but excuse me, please. I'm Canadian. We read differently up here. Our English is so different up here, eh, bud? So, by the way, that footage, 1933, Toronto Maple Leafs playing New York Rangers. The song was from a Canadian band called the Tragically Hip, which I often use here on the channel. I just like them, and I like their lyrics, and that song is interesting. There's a story behind the lyrics of that song, and when that video is up and posted for Wednesday, this coming Wednesday. In the description below, I've always put the song lyrics for any of the songs that aren't the songs that are copyright songs and stuff, man. Gotta give a shout out to the Tragically Hip and put the lyrics in there. It's a very interesting story. But a hockey player disappeared fishing. He was on a fishing trip, as they say in the song. And the Maple Leafs were making a run for the cup or something, and it was something like they found his remains, and then the Leafs won the cup, or they won the cup because they were like, we got to do it for Bill. We got to do it for Bill Barilko. And they won the cup, and then they found I can't remember what the story is, but it's something like that. But it's pretty interesting. I mean, I'm not crazy for the hockey. I do enjoy a good game of shinny, that's for sure. I mean, I'm not. Yeah, like Vince said earlier, being a truther has kind of killed any interest in the sports ball. Well, it's the bread and circus thing, right? And I mean, I get it; it's a distraction. But I do enjoy the speed and the physicality of a good game of hockey. It is. You're right. It's a very fast game. Those guys skate quickly, and that puck moves in excess of 100 kilometers or kilometers per hour, on a slap shot from a really good player. But even a kind of a guy whose specialty isn't like a trigger guy with the puck, those guys are shooting at like, 80 kilometers per hour. I know what you mean. I know what you mean, internet person. They're the guys, Gordy, God rest his soul, Gord Downey, sorry, excuse me, Gord Downey, the lead singer. And, I mean, the boys in the band, they just wrote some great songs. They had some great, and there was a lot of Canadian reference, right? Like the song Bob Cajun. Even a lot of Canadians didn't even know that there's a town in Ontario called Bob Cajun. Like, wait, what? Right? So it's just so Canadiana. And just a good band. So I put their stuff in a lot of my stuff, and hopefully it doesn't get me into trouble one day. So far, so good. Like they take a copyright claim. So I don't know if there's a commercial in the video, then they're the Tragically Hip or whatever foundation or whatever for Gord is getting the cash. Then that's all good. Whatever. I don't know who's paying who. It's fine by me. But it's definitely a different game when you look at it in the 20s and the 30s, because there's quite a bit of footage out there of professional hockey in the 20s and 30s. The picture's decent on a lot of it too, because once the CBC was up and running, that's your Canadian Broadcasting Corporation. That's a government-run, government-funded television station. Excuse me. So you get a decent picture and sound quality and stuff, right? But it's just different time. I mean, the goalie's wearing like what I call a newspaper boy hat in that footage. I'm like, really? It's not nothing. There's pads everywhere, but his head and face, nah, it's fine. It'll be fine. Don't even worry about it. What are you talking about? What? Protect my face and my head? What for? Incredible to me. Yeah, I mean, it's a great sport, and it like I said, it's fast, it's rough and tumble. Anybody can play it really per se. I mean, any frozen pond, you get a couple of sticks and a puck. I mean, you can go down to your local Canadian Tire, and get yourself a CCM stick for like $20, $30 there, bud. Get yourself a puck. You don't even have to throw on skates, man. Just play street hockey, whatever. Anyway. But I mean, I get it. It is what it is. Like I said, bread and circuses, right? So I totally get it. Let's just put it this way. I'm much more interested in looking into what I look into on the channel here and doing my boots on the ground videos and hanging out with you good people than watching too much football or hockey or baseball or any of that stuff. Moderation. So I was talking earlier about there's a lot of underground in Montreal that everybody's familiar with. And again, I'm not the first channel to talk about Montreal, old Montreal. It's a beautiful part of the country and it's a beautiful part of the world, the old city. I mean, and everybody's familiar with the large shopping centers that go underground, 4, 5, 6 stories or floors below ground. And they're all interconnected with the subway system, or what's called the metro in Montreal. And the shopping malls and hotels and restaurants and nightclubs and everything there. Not every stop has a lot of stuff, but some of the main stops do connect to some of the big underground shopping complexes and so on. And, other venues too, not just shopping malls, hotels. It's a whole underground city underneath Montreal as well. So again, as a kid, growing up in and around Montreal and living there till I was 10 and going back often to visit, the underground subway, or what they call the metro, I'm not a stranger to it at all. But of course, the usual story with the Montreal transit system began in 1861 with a line of horse-drawn cars. Oh, dear Lord, there it is again. Street cars, trolleys, right? Like ding ding, like in San Francisco or whatever, pulled on railroad tracks on the street by horses. We've seen photos of it, we've seen video of it, and to me, it still is just the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen in my life. But anyway, so it started to operate on a couple of streets, and then, as the city grew, yada, 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 this network of streetcar lines developed. So prior to 1959, they had extensive streetcar system, and then they switched to buses. In 1902, as European and American cities were inaugurating their first subway systems, the federal government created the Montreal Subway Company to promote the idea in Canada. So they didn't even have, they formed a company just to promote the idea. Let's start a company and then go around and say, hey guys, what do you think? A subway under Montreal? Huh? I'm not sure how that works. If you have to start a business first, and maybe to drum up capital and investors. I don't know. I'm not a subway building tycoon guy. But it would prove elusive goal. First, the Montreal Street Railcar Company, the Montreal Central Terminal Company, and the Montreal Underground and Elevated Railway Company undertook fruitless negotiations with the city. So like umpteen different companies tried with the city, and Montreal, for some reason, was being a ball buster about it. So I don't know, did somebody in the city planning know that, hey, we don't want to go digging around down there? Like, I don't know. I'm just speculating. And a year later, the Comptoir Financier Franco-Canadien and the Montreal Tunnel Company proposed tunnels under the city center and the St. Lawrence River to link the emerging South Shore neighborhoods, but faced the opposition of the railway companies. Montreal Tramways Company was the first to receive the approval of the provincial government in 1913, and for 4 years to start construction. The reluctance of the elected city officials to advance the funds foiled his first attempt. Man, somebody in city council did not want a subway under downtown Montreal for some reason. The issue of the subway remained present in the newspapers, but World War I and the following recession hitting Montreal, yada, 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 yada. 1939, and World War II. Okay, so after the war, now they get down to brass taxes. So in the 40s and 50s, they start readdressing it again. So by this point, construction was already well underway on Canada's first subway line in Toronto under Yonge Street, which would be opened in 1954. It's a modern subway, by the way. Still, Montreal councillors remained cautious, and no work was initiated. For some of them, including Jean Drapeau, I guess he was a premier, during his first municipal term. Oh, he was a mayor. Okay. Public transit was a thing of the past. But they would, no, we don't even want public transit. Wow. 59, private company, yada, yada, yada. Rubber tired metro. So there it is. So it doesn't operate on train tracks like streetcars and trains, freight trains do. It's got a central, almost like monorail, but it uses electric, and then it rides on rubber tires, and then the tires are also the insulating, amongst other systems that insulate it. So I guess like the New York subway, where part of the track is electrified, it's the same concept, but it runs on rubber tires, and there's also rubber tires, at least in the Montreal metro, that are mounted horizontally, and the tread, or what would be the bottom of the tire, hugs this monorail as well. It's weird. Even growing up there and seeing it all the time, it's weird. It looks weird. But anyway, yeah, it's the rubber-tired metro. So anyways, after some pussyfooting around, finally, okay, it's 61, they get the ball rolling. So they start building it. It starts off with a couple of lines, in downtown, and then they expand it. And in the early 60s, and then I think it's opened up, inaugurated in 67. Yeah, in 67, which is basically in time for the Expo 67. And that's where they had a lot of the digging for the underground metro. The earth that they removed, supposedly, was transported and used to join a bunch of smaller islands in the St. Lawrence, close to Montreal. Join them together to make a larger island to hold the expo. And of course, then the metro went eventually to the expo site as well, under the St. Lawrence. So when you hear of like, oh, underground Montreal, of course, when you go to look into it, that's the first thing that pops up all the time is the metro, the shopping centers underground that are connected by the metro, and yada, yada, yada. But, it takes a little bit more looking around. And again, links in the description below. And if you're watching, kind of shooting in after the fact and watching this as it's re-uploaded, again, the links will be down there. So again, subways and malls underground and all that. Sure. Like, I get it. But you got to kind of screw around a little bit more. So I found this older article from the Globe and Mail from about 5 years ago. So of course they got to give their, it was published 5 years ago. Some information may no longer be current. Sure, okay. But this is where is the damn thing? Montreal's discovered caves and forgotten rivers. Where is it? Now it's saying it's only available. I just was looking at it the other day. Now they're not going to let me. That is weird. When I bookmarked this thing about 4 or 5 days ago, I read it and I bookmarked it so I could use it. The link is in the description already. But now it's behind a paywall, or you got to subscribe or whatever to read the article. Sorry about that, because it's an article about those caves that we looked at some photos already at the beginning of the stream. But it's about these caves that were recently discovered. And again, recently, 5 years ago now, but we looked at the photos of those caves and the forgotten rivers. In other words, the waterways that supposedly carved out these caves under the city, tens of thousands of years ago, the Ice Age and yada, yada. And I'm sorry about that. That is really weird because this was a publicly accessible article. I thought maybe it was just, click here to read or something, but I'm not seeing that at all. It's just saying that log in to keep reading. I don't want to do that. I'm sorry about that, folks. I'll have to take that out of the link. That bugs me. It really bugs me. Oh, at least this other one is there. There's one more article I wanted to share with you. And this is from the museum for that chapel, the Bonsecours chapel itself. This is the website. This is Marguerite Bourgeois, Bourgeois. It's really tough to say, but it's an archaeological site. No thanks, buzz off. So it says here an archaeological site, more than 2,400 years of history. So beneath the floor of the chapel, and accessible to visitors throughout the vault, lies a truly remarkable archaeological site. During 1996-97 dig, archaeologists made one fascinating discovery after another. To their great astonishment, the painstaking work of their trowels uncovered the foundations of Marguerite Bourgeois' little chapel. Foundations that had quietly awaited discovery for 325 years. Team's emotion knew no bounds, as bit by bit, one of the oldest religious sites in North America gave up its secrets. A campsite for Native people, constructed in 1675, Notre-Dame de Bonsecours Chapel, was situated on a promontory beside the mighty St. Lawrence River, which in its time had seen groups come and go. The first to leave traces of their presence on the site were the Native peoples. The archaeological site has revealed signs of encampments and artifacts dating back more than 2,400 years, among the most ancient in old Montreal. Now, they're only finding this in the 90s, but this is under that chapel that my dad and my uncles were talking about in the 1950s and early 1960s of the catacombs under Bonsecours Chapel, which I mistook for catacombs underneath Bonsecours Market, but it's just down the street. I mean, they're basically next door to each other for all intents and purposes. So who knows? It could all be connected. But anyway, of course, a devastating fire. Visitors will find evidence of a fire that destroyed Notre-Dame de Bonsecours, Montreal's first stone chapel, and vestiges of the wooden palisade that made up the fortifications of the town in 1709. Artifacts that trace the history of the site are on display in the vault. Yada, yada, yada. So yeah, there you go. We found all kinds of crazy stuff under there. So if you're ever in Montreal and you're in old Montreal, I mean, go to the Bonsecours Market because you can't miss it, and then go to the Bonsecours Chapel next door, and then there's the museum. Let's see what we've got here for chapel. Yeah, see, there's your Bonsecours Market, and then there's the chapel. So yeah, it was destroyed in fire in 1754. Actually, it had two fires, right? If memory serves. So yeah, a weird connection with this religious order building this chapel and a bunch of holy hospitals, I guess, for lack of a better term, linked with the Hospitalier Knights, the Templars, I guess, for lack of a better term, I guess. And again, just according to what we're told, right? And they find all these ancient remains and old chapels and layers upon, indigenous spot, and then on top of that, an old chapel, and then on top of that, the current chapel. Oh, Vincent, thank you. Really? Really? Let me have a peekaboo at that then, if I may. Thank you, Vincent. Yes, that's the one. Yeah, yeah. As a boy, a comic book Superman. Because I remember when I first started reading the article, I'm like, what's he getting on about with comic books and Superman? What does that have to do with tunnels? Thank you, sir. Let's see. What am I going to share here? Ah, there we go. All right. So I think everybody see that, hopefully. Yeah, looks like you can. Great. Montreal's discovered caves and forgotten rivers. There we go. So yeah, again, 5 years ago. So blah blah blah. So yeah, I remember I don't get it, but anyway, I remember being impressed as a boy by a comic book cover that showed Superman ripping open a tunnel filled with crooks and their loot. For a while, I thought it was the real meaning of the phrase criminal underground. It was easy to be misled by the photos of caves recently found under Montreal's St. Leonard district, some of which look like man made stone corridors. Those are the photos we looked at the top of the show. In fact, they were created by glacial tectonic movements some 15,000 years ago. If the caves had been found under a farmer's field, no one but spelunkers would have cared. Because these are under a city, we all want to know when we can go down and have a look, or better yet, paddle a dinghy through the watery sections of the 500 meters opened up by a pair of Montreal cave enthusiasts. What do they mean that it was opened up by a Montreal cave enthusiast? If you're a cave enthusiast, you can just start digging up old caves? Wait, what? Anyway. What's it about urban caves that is so attractive and mysterious? Few people want to live or work below ground. Montrealers get plenty of subterranean experience by walking the underground city. Yeah, there you go. 32 kilometers. So what is that? I don't know. 15 miles? 13 miles? Maybe more? I don't know. And passageways that link downtown office towers, shopping malls with the city's subway system. Yeah, so there we go. So, of course, that's part of the known urban world in which everything is planned, designed, built, and managed for a specific purpose. The newly discovered caves are accidents of geology coming to light unexpectedly in a milieu where most natural features of the land have already been mapped, controlled, and regulated. The resemblance of some sections of the caves to a built environment seen in photos of straight limestone walls and ceilings is a bonus. Oh, it's a bonus, is it? Hey, Phil, welcome. Thanks for shooting in. Good to see you. Yeah, it's a bonus. It's just a bonus that it looks. It just it just has straight limestone walls and ceilings. It's as if nature had constructed a useless parody of what our purposeful architecture would even look like, and then waited several thousand years for us to discover the joke. What? Still not sure what that has to do with Superman and criminals hiding their loot. Or maybe it does have something to do with criminals hiding loot. Now, the public curiosity about this newfound feature of subterranean Montreal is especially striking when you consider the combination of indifference and activist engineering that drove many small rivers and streams underground. Part of the story of Montreal is its long assault on the natural waterways that flow through the land when the city was founded. Well, yeah, because it's an island, one of the largest waterways in North America. It feeds into it goes into the Great Lakes. It's the waterway to the Great Lakes. So yeah. MJL in the box. Welcome. Howdy. Good to see you. Michael Joshua Lewis. How's it going, eh? So one portion of the original city wall followed the meandering St. Pierre River. Yeah, because the island has some rivers on it too, right? Point where it approached the St. Lawrence from the west. The St. Pierre was considered an asset to the settlement as it had served indigenous people for millennia. So yeah, they originally, built some walls that followed these rivers, so on and so forth. And, then they wanted to divert some of the water and the underwater water table and redirect sewage and so on. And that whole story, right? But this is none of that. By the 30s, 1/3 of Montreal's tributary system had gone underground. By the 60s, the whole thing was being subsumed into a more systematic wastewater system. But it's still a surprise that they found these caves. It's like, what? Montreal's new ancient caves, which adjoin caves known since the early 1800s. Oh, I didn't remember catching that part when I first read the article. Montreal's new ancient caves, which adjoin caves known since the 1800s. So if these are joined by caves that were known, then why are they only just finding out about it in 1996 and 1997? When my daddy and two of my uncles were talking about this in the late 50s, early 60s. This stuff under Montreal, man. Oh, of course, yeah, tourism. There you go. Paris has about 300 kilometers of underground tunnels dug out by medieval stone miners. That's almost 50% more extensive than the city's subway system, but only a small portion can be visited. The catacombs were the big draw. Yeah, that's Paris. So they're saying we might make it into a tourist destination, but probably not. Because people don't even go to see the Paris one, which is way bigger and better than your crappy, stupid Canadian one there, eh, bud? So thank you, by the way, once again, to my buddy Vince for sharing that PDF file from that link that left me high and dry there. So how's everybody doing in the box? Again, I'm seeing a few new folks, so thank you. I'm really happy that you swung by. I'm glad I don't know how you stumbled bass backwards into this thing over here, with this crazy thing I'm doing, but I appreciate it. If you haven't already, please give a guy a thumbs up. Got 14 watching, so thank you very much. It's not bad for a fella, a little guy like me. And hey, if you're new to the channel, subscribing, I appreciate that as well. And as a reminder, every Sunday, upload Boots on the Ground video. Every Wednesday is my vintage footage video, which you get a sneak peek of here tonight. Earlier, you got a little peekaboo at it. Guy gave you a little looky-loo, eh? Shh, don't. Shh, hey, psst, psst, come here. Don't tell anyone. Shh, it's a secret. Got a little sneak peek. So that's what every Wednesday. Vintage footage, old-timey video footage, man, with some music set to it. Sometimes it's trains. Sometimes it's, I don't know, hot air balloons. I don't know, whatever I could find. Of course, every Friday coming at you live here, New West Reset Live. And what's coming up here? What's coming up? Well, on Sunday, not only you're getting a twofer, everybody. Oh, now sit down now. Sit down, brace yourself. Maybe even jump back and kiss yourself. You're getting a twofer on Sunday. You're getting your regular Boots on the Ground video upload for Sunday. And you're getting an episode of the Knucklehead Show. That's right. Myself and Chris at Old World Exploration do our monthly Knucklehead Show. And that is coming up in the morning, Sunday. And that's the 1st of October, actually. Sunday, October the 1st, Knucklehead Show. Episode, what's the guy at now with that crazy show? Episode 6, I believe, already, with the Knucklehead Show. And that'll be in the AM. I believe that is a 10 a.m. Mountain Time start to the show. I hope I didn't mess that up. Yeah, 10 a.m. Mountain Time. That's this coming Sunday, October the 1st, the Knucklehead Show. We're looking at Brandon, Manitoba. And that comes by request. But I think lately somebody else in the alternative research community, or whatever you want to call this crazy dog and pony show we're doing over here, anyway, recently touched on or talked about Brandon, Manitoba. But anyways, it came by request from subscribers. So that show will be broadcast simultaneously here, myself, Frankie, New West Reset, and over at Chris's channel, Old World Exploration. Normally, I'm also broadcasting live over on the Rumble, the fighting channel, the fighting platform over there with my Friday night show. But again, it doesn't want to take over there for some reason. I don't know. I've done it successfully a couple of times, but I don't know. It doesn't like it. It doesn't want to do it. So I just re-upload these after the fact. So apologies for anybody over on Rumble looking for the live show here tonight. I don't know, some kind of crazy technical thing. I'm talking to a buddy of mine who's good on the magical goggle machine, and he's going to help me figure it out. He was like, "Oh, I think I know what that is." So it's just a matter of he's going to swing by one day and clickety click and mess around on the keyboard and click with the mouse a few times, and then the guy's golden, like that statue on that old chapel we looked at tonight. But definitely going simultaneous Sunday morning, Old World Exploration, the Knucklehead Show, looking at Brandon. Amazing stuff in Brandon. You probably never, even if you're Canadian, you might not have heard of Brandon. Well, maybe. But I was, I'm pretty familiar with Brandon, and I've looked at some wacky buildings that don't belong in Brandon, old world looking buildings already. And even still, doing the research for the show, I'm like, are you kidding me? Give me a break with this. This is amazing. I mean, hey, it ain't Paris or London, old London town, Londinium, or some old world country in Europe. It's not in the Netherlands or in Germany or something, but I was like, wait, what's going on here? Oh, can you hear me? Am I okay now? What's going on? Just listening on the YouTube tab, and it seems all right. I just get a little closer to the mic, eh? And Michael Joshua Lewis saying, best censor free channel, Rumble or platform. Yeah. Heaps of reptilian, fallen angel, Dogon visitor stuff. Wow. That's very specific. That's very specific. Yeah, and my stuff goes up there. It goes up there, not a problem. It's just for some reason. And I think it's just I'm not connecting it correctly between getting the HooTubes and StreamYard and Rumble to all sashay nicely together. It's getting them to play together nicely. I think it's just operator error, because does not compute, because I'm an old fella. Guy's getting long in the tooth, and technology frightens me. All right, there, I said it. So we got 15 in the box. Once again, thanks for joining me. Getting ready to wind this thing down here. We're coming up on 2 hours. Got about 5 minutes to go. So if you've got any questions for a guy in the chat, let me know real quick. Again, links for everything will be in the description. I've got to take out that one link that didn't work, but I don't know. You get the gist of it. Get the gist. Yeah, that's the other thing too. Thank you, hippie. You're good for reminding a guy I forgot that. Yeah, I started my own playlist for the Knucklehead Show here on the channel. I'm not sure if Chris has done the same over on his channel, but yeah. So if you want to catch up on the Knucklehead Show, again, it's we keep it Canadian. We look at Canadian cities or crazy areas of the country, and we'd like to try to put the Great White North, kind of front and center on the world stage as concerns the research that we do in our community, right? A lot of times it's considered a young country, and I guess technically on paper it is. But when you look at the eastern part of the country, like where we looked at tonight, and other areas that I've looked at on my show, and we've looked at on the Knucklehead Show, you get into areas in eastern Canada, New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, Quebec, and Newfoundland. I mean, it's incredible. There's places and buildings that, by the official story, have been there for hundreds and hundreds of years. 400 to 600 years. That's pretty impressive. Or sorry, 300 to 500 years. So once again, as a reminder, links in the description below. I'll take out that one that was wonky for whatever reason. Thanks for joining me. You know what? That's a good idea, Turtle. I will do that. Please create a playlist of Wednesday music clips. Yeah, the vintage footage videos. Yeah, every Wednesday, because it's generally speaking, it's the music, right? Yeah, I'll do that. I'll create a vintage footage playlist. Absolutely. Good. Thanks for the suggestion. Title. Thank you. So yeah, again, that's every Wednesday for those videos. Every Sunday for boots on the ground. And every Friday here live, usually between 5 p.m. and 7 p.m. start time, and that's Mountain Time. I usually try to do it in the evening. Once in a while, I might do it in the morning. I don't know. Maybe a guy feels like just scheduling it for the morning, because I know, across the pond right now it's either really late / really early. The further east you go, I mean, it's, yeah, like Hippie says, it's 3 a.m. there, right? So, bless you for joining me here at that late / early hour. I don't know how you do it, but I would certainly appreciate it. I appreciate all of you for joining me. So I think before I wind it down, a final reminder, if you haven't already, just help push a guy out into the algorithm. It ebbs and flows, right? Like the beautiful rolling foothills that Calgary is nestled in here. And it's, so any little bit of help that you can give me with support with, following me over on BitChute or Rumble or MeWe, liking the stream, joining me on the videos, give them a thumbs up, and let me know what you think down below. Just take your keyboard and just go beep boop bop boop beep boop boop beep boop on the keyboard. That's actually the best part for me, because I'm always interested to hear what you think, because especially a lot of times with those midweek uploads on Wednesdays, those vintage footage videos, it's just old footage that I found, and I put it to music, and I'll always put something in the description, the year, what city it takes place, and that sort of thing. But that's really about it. So I love to hear your ideas and your impressions on some of the imagery that you're seeing. And it's not just a still photo too, it's video footage, right? A lot of times you can get a lot better of an idea when you get anywhere from 2 to 5 minutes of old footage. Which, yeah, I mean, one could say old video footage could be manipulated too, especially today with AI. But I'm visiting places that, these videos were uploaded like 10 years ago, right? So 8 years ago, that sort of thing. So maybe not perhaps as manipulative. That's not a word. Manipulativable. Not as easily manipulated as a photograph. But still, you got to be wary. So I'm always interested in your comments under those videos, especially. But it's always great to get your feedback. So I appreciate it. And with that said, I think that is what's going to do it. That's going to seal the deal here tonight for Frankie, New West Reset, and New West Reset Live. Episode number 33 here tonight. Buried secrets beneath Montreal. Finding old caves that they didn't know were there, even though they were connected to caves that they knew were there. Anyway, appreciate it as always. As per usual, let me know what you think down in the comments below. And before I go, let's have a little fun here.
So now you know what I'm talking about with the whole New West Reset thing.
No.
What?
No.
What I said about Frankie Fingers. That Frankie Fingers
yeah.
a New West Reset of the sand.
Wait, what?
Oh yeah, she don't stand no cheating. She don't stand none of that.
All right, there you go. Have a great one, everybody. Once again, thanks for shooting in and joining me for this one. Take care out there, and until the next one, have a good one. And we'll talk to you again real soon. And we'll see you on Sunday, hopefully. Hopefully. No pressure, just if you feel like it. Knuckleheads, Brandon, Manitoba. Take care, everyone. Cheers.